Okay, I'm a staff writer of the Kyiv Post. It's a Ukrainian English language newspaper. Uh, and I started covering this conflict since the annexation of Crimea. Basically, we went with my colleague photographer to see what's going on in Crimea. It ended up with annexation. Then we went in end of March to go to see what's going on in eastern Ukraine, and it ended up with a war. And since then, I'm covering the conflict. I was there for the last time about a month ago. And before that, I also covered the 5-day war in Georgia for the Agence France-Presse newspaper agency. When speaking about challenges of journalists who work in a war zone, I would like to point out first that for me it was challenging to find out truth. Because when the events are developing very fast and you are pressed with time and your editor demands a story from you every day, it's really hard to understand what in fact is going on and what you are seeing here. I can give you the very simple example. It was in August 2014, we were heading from Mariupol to Shirokino. It is a small village which is now almost totally destroyed, and at that moment there was fighting around that village. We wanted to figure out, is it safe to go there? We saw the fire and smoke coming up somewhere nearby, but we couldn't understand what was it in Shirokino or not. We were stopping the cars which were heading from that direction. First car, we asked the driver, what's going on in Shirokino? He said, oh my God, there is a fighting that's so terrible, don't go there. We asked him, have you been to Shirokino? He said, no, but I was told. Okay, we stopped another car and asked the driver, what's going on in Shirokino? He said, it's fighting. Have you been to Shirokino? No, but I was told about this situation. Then we stopped third car and asked the driver, have you been to Shirokino? He said, yes, I'm heading from this village. And what's going on there? It's now quiet, you can go. So basically, people, when they see the dramatic events, they tend to overestimate. They tend to lie. They do it either on purpose or because they are scared or because they just don't understand the situation. That's why I made a conclusion for myself that you should spend more time at the location, and the more time you spend there, the better you understand what is actually going on. And the more time you spend with your source, the better, again, you understand what actually this person is telling you about and his story. Like I mentioned this in my brief story that, for example, in May 2014, we went to a town of Rubizhne. It is in Luhansk Oblast, and we saw the 4 Ukrainian armed vehicles which were totally burned down. And the locals told us that dozens of Ukrainian soldiers were killed in the fight. It was a very bloody fight, and there are still corpses lying in the forest. And of course, in this situation, we basically could trust our own eyes. But you cannot even trust your own eyes because, yes, we saw these armed vehicles. But it turned out, on the next day when we returned and spoke to more people, that those armed vehicles were burned down by Ukrainian artillery. And the Ukrainian soldiers, they just left these armed vehicles, and the Ukrainian artillery had to burn them down to prevent them from being captured by the separatists. So the story is absolutely different to what it appeared at the first time. One more challenge, which I also faced covering war zone, and it appeared a bit later on in 2015, 2016. The Ukrainian journalists who were covering the war zone, they were forced to take sides. And it's a problem which happened when I was covering another story about secret prisons of SBU. And this story, I also have it here, you can share these papers. Yeah, you can circulate them. So basically it was a story about the civilians from Donbass who were captured by SBU security services. and kept in Kharkiv in secret prison for about almost 2 years. And many of them were tortured, and they basically were prepared for exchange for Ukrainian soldiers. The SBU were planning to send them to the separatist control area in exchange of Ukrainian soldiers. So basically it was like a good course because they wanted to save Ukrainian soldiers, but at the same time they were torturing and keeping these people illegally, and their relatives even didn't know about them. And these people were released, thanks God, in 2016 after the pressure of international organizations, human rights organizations like Amnesty International, Human Rights Watch, and we interviewed these people after that. And I have no reasons not to believe them because their stories complement each other, and stories of their relatives complement each other. But after that, the SBU representative showed up in the Kyiv Post newspaper looking for me, and I felt it was a kind of intimidation because I wasn't present in the office at that moment. But then I received an email when the SBU officer asked me, did I have enough proofs that we asked the SBU for comment for this story? I said yes, I have proofs, and then I was left alone. So this is another point. And in the end, I would like to also mention in this story about SBU secret prisons. I spoke to and interviewed 3 people, and one of them, during the interview, he told me a lot about his story, about his life, and so. And in the very end, he mentioned that he, in fact, did fight on the separatist side, but he told me this like, but you know, it's like just off the record, it's just for you. It's like, I'm just telling you as a friend. And I understood that I could not mention him at all, because either I lie to my readers or I betray my source if I mention his story. But now he is safe because he participated in the SBU program "На тебе чекають удома", they wait for you at home. So he received a kind of amnesty, despite the fact he participated in fighting on the separatist side.